around 2027, we will actually be introduced to literal extraterrestrials because they're realizing the potential we have to destroy ourselves, and they cannot allow that to happen. One very straightforward way of preparing for contact, it's you act on your passion first, because passion is our physical translation of a message from our soul saying this is your frequency. When you raise your vibration, what happens? You become a better receiver of higher frequency information, communication, and energy. If you follow the instructions, it will work as advertised. If you don't, it may hurt you. When you decide, I'm going to buy into this negative belief, creation's going to say, okie dokie, I'll support you in that and magnify and amplify what you have chosen to believe is true. The universe is a mirror. If you're looking in a glass mirror and you see your face frowning, it can't show you a smile until you smile. And if you want to see the frown in the mirror change, you have to smile first because the mirror can't before you do.
I'm curious a little bit about step 4, just to go
Staying in a positive state.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of people, one of the questions we got from people was like, how do I stay in a positive state when I have to do things I don't like doing, like taxes or things that I can't shift?
Okay, that's a common question. And the first thing to understand is if there are things that are necessary for you to do in your reality in order for you to continue to thrive in it, there is always a way that works for you uniquely. So you have to have the imagination and creativity to figure out, how do I approach this that needs to be done, but in a creative, fun way? Because many times the only reason that people say they don't like doing that is because they're doing it in the way they've been taught by other people that may work for them, but it doesn't work for you. And that can even include hiring someone else to do it who is excited about doing it, and that way it gets done. Doing it in the way that works for you doesn't mean you literally physically have to be doing it. But if there are some things that you do need to do, well, one example I use is things like people say, I don't like washing dishes, I find that washing dishes is a very meditative act. There's warm water running over your hands. You may be looking out the kitchen window at what's going on outside, and you're going through these motions, and it almost becomes like kind of a Tai Chi exercise to just feel, yourself moving around the dishes and stacking them up and all this with the warm water. And you can really go into a very pleasant state doing that and use it to your advantage to let things download into you while you're kind of in this semi-trance state of washing your dishes. So again, it just depends on how you approach things, but you have to know that if you find that this is a task that seems full of effort, you're not doing it in the way that works for you. So you have to really ramp up your creative imagination and look for different pathways, again, even including finding someone who is excited about doing it so that you physically don't necessarily have to, but not avoiding looking for those pathways where you could possibly be the one to do it if you find the way that works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing if you can delegate it and you would like to, that's an option.
That's an option.
And that it's not just the what, it's the how.
It's the how. It's always the how you do it. Yeah, how do you approach it?
What about for people that feel obligated to certain things in their life? Like, I have to make money, or I'm just kind of hearing that. And I'm wondering if Bashar has any wisdom around how to comb through and let go of obligation.
Well, again, we set up a life path, and there are obviously certain things that you do need to do to thrive in physical reality. But again, you have to have a broader range of definitions for things. We get so stuck in one definition because we're sort of brought up that way and we're taught to see everyone doing that. And it's like, well, that must be the only way it can be done. So a good example, when you bring up the concept of money, money is one way that we have of expressing abundance and support and exchange on this planet. But it's not the only way. But we've been so trained to think that things can't be done any other way that we completely block any other way it could come to us. So from Bashar's perspective, being given a gift is a form of abundance. Having something to trade is a form of abundance. Synchronicity is a form. Imagination is a form. Communication is a form. Information is a form of abundance. Because when information, for example, comes to you, that's something different than you thought of before, it can rearrange how you realize that something could be done. Communicating with someone can give you another answer of how something can be done that doesn't necessarily need the amount of money you thought, because it's a different path that doesn't require as much or any at all.
I love resourcefulness and creativity.
Yes.
And then we see the abundance and the options that are here beyond that fear-based limitation and lack. Yeah. And I'm hearing people say, okay, I'm following my passion, I'm taking the steps. And how do they know the difference between when to kind of pivot because it doesn't have aliveness for them, or when it's just their internal fear-based programming that they need to heal or wake up from?
Right. Well, it does take honest self-evaluation. You have to be willing to be transparent to yourself. You have to be willing to ask the questions that reveal why you might be holding on to something that doesn't work for you. Because it's always about having a motivation to do so. In other words, we always go in the direction of what we believe will serve us, always, without fail. We always go away from the direction we believe does not serve us, always, without fail. So if we realize we are choosing something that doesn't serve us, the only reason we would do that based on this motivational mechanism is there's got to be a belief within us, either that it does serve us somehow that we're not admitting or aware of, or the alternative seems worse in our belief system. So if I stop doing this and start doing that, something worse might happen, and I'm going to stay where I am because as much as I don't like it, it's familiar and safer, because something worse might happen if I let this go. So you have to be honest in your self-investigation. Now, that being said, there is, in a sense, such a thing as green light synchronicity and red light synchronicity, which is sort of like traffic rules, right? So something may be representative of your passion, but synchronicity is saying, not now. You don't have the ability to act on it right now. And that's your signal that you need to focus on whatever aspect of your passion you can act on, because it's about acting on your passion. And you don't always have the same ability to act on certain things that you have to act on other things. So if two things are representative of your passion, but you don't have the ability to really do anything about this one, then look for what you do have the ability to act on. Because even though they might on the surface look like completely different things, it's the passion that tells you they're connected. And sometimes what synchronicity is telling you is, look, you have to do this one first because it's going to give you the information and the knowledge and the experience you need ultimately to come back to and accomplish the other one. But I'm telling you how to do this in what order, because synchronicity is not only the example that everything is connected, it's the organizing principle, and it will tell you what you need to do in what order if you just simply allow yourself to follow what you are able to act on and what you're not. Now, if for some reason more than one thing excites you equally and more than one thing has the ability to be acted on equally, then in a sense you might as well flip a coin, because it doesn't really matter. And sometimes flipping a coin can actually reveal which one is more exciting to you. Because you could say, okay, heads this way, tails that way, and it comes up tails, and you might go, oh, darn, I wish it was heads. Oh, okay, I wish it had been heads, which means that's the more exciting one. If they're really, truly equal, then it doesn't matter which one you act on first, because if that's not the correct path, synchronicity will turn you around to the one that is. Because again, it's a guiding, organizing principle.
And there seems to be a lot of trust in this whole system, because I think some people will get that red light and think, oh, I'm doing something wrong, or I should stop.
And that's okay, because again, it takes honest self-investigation to make sure you're not the one killing the excitement. So if that does happen, yes, the first step is, am I the one that's dampening my excitement? Do I have a fear-based belief about this? What am I holding on to? But after doing that self-examination, if you can't find anything, then you have to trust that it's just telling you this is not the time to do that aspect of it. Find out what you can act on that's representative of your passion and act on that first. Because it's all connected anyway.
Yeah, and if somebody is in resistance or they're judging themselves, then that's also then revealing more work to clear, rather than getting in the rabbit hole of self.
And that's what that moment is for anyway, because it's not like you're trying to race ahead and reach a goal. The process you're going through is the entire point. That's why we create a physical reality experience, is to learn and discover what we're all about from a new perspective. So people think, okay, I have to get through this and I have to get to where I'm going. It's like, no, stay in the process and spend the time to look inside and discover what you're holding on to. That's more important than where you think you're supposed to wind up, because you will then know yourself. And isn't that the ancient wisdom? Know thyself, right? That's what it's all about. Who are you? And why are you doing what you're doing? And how are you learning? And how are you growing in the experience, in the process? Like a lot of people say, it's, the destination is the journey. It's not like you're trying to get somewhere else. It's what you're experiencing now that's the most important thing. So use it to your advantage.
And I love this exploration of who am I?
Right.
And how does Bashar support or guide people to discover who they really are?
Well, again, it goes back to the formula, because it's a self-contained guiding principle. It literally is not a philosophy. It's literally a description of how we're already creating our physical reality experience. But by understanding the elements of the formula, he is letting us figure that out consciously instead of unconsciously. So he's basically saying, look, here's the instruction manual for how you're actually already creating your physical reality experience. Just do it with more awareness, and you can guide it in the direction you prefer to, instead of it seeming like a random occurrence because you don't know what you're doing. So he's literally broken down, this is how you're doing it. This is how it works. These are the instructions for how you create your physical reality experience. Just follow the instructions like you would to operate a piece of machinery. If you follow the instructions, it will work as advertised. If you don't, or you add more instructions or you remove instructions, well, the machine may or may not work. And even if it does work, it may not work properly. It may hurt you, So just follow the instructions and it will work in the way it's supposed to, because now you have a conscious awareness of what it is you're doing and how you actually create your reality. And that acts as a navigation tool that allows you to navigate in the direction you prefer.
And as you're doing that, you're in more synchronistic flow, you're higher
Absolutely.
vibration, you're enjoying the present moment,
Absolutely.
not just to the end goal. And then it also sounds like we're more available for contact with guides, ETs, guidance.
Because this is coming from, ostensibly, a being that has already evolved to the point where they have been through all that. So they're giving us the benefit of their experience and saying, look, here's the instruction manual we finally compiled with our understanding after literally tens of thousands of years of experience. Take advantage of it. You don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. We're telling you how the wheel works.
Bless.
And it's still up to you.
Yeah.
Because it's your free will. You don't have to pay attention to it, but they're saying, but we guarantee that if you do, things will be a lot easier and a lot more fun.
And I love the idea of just being a scientist in our own lives and just testing it to
Absolutely.
find out
and
for
that's
ourselves.
the thing that is really the most important thing. Like I say, nobody has to believe that Bashar is real. I can't prove it. This is just the way this happened for me. It could be another aspect of my consciousness for all I know. But this is the way it's presented itself for a variety of reasons that I understand and are not important for anyone else to understand, because that's my journey.
That's right.
The proof is in the application of the information. The information does actually change things and makes a difference. And I am constantly getting people coming back to me saying, when I finally got it and I really applied the formula precisely in the way Bashar was talking about, everything changed for the better. So it's the proof in applying the information that makes the difference, and that's the important thing to focus on. Not that it's coming from an ET or a spirit or whatever. This is something practical that actually makes a difference in your life if you actually apply it.
And that's what we're all about here on the podcast.
That's what's important.
Yeah.